Hey guys, Sean here, and I'm dead chuffed to tell you that today's video is brought to you by Squarespace, which is just a little bit awesome. Tell you more about that now in a bit. One of the beautiful things about cameras is that they tend to pick up an awful lot of things, whether those things are meant to be there or not. With that in mind, I'm Sean Ferrick for Trek Culture, and here are 10 times Star Trek accidentally filmed things you weren't supposed to see. Number 10. Newspaper on the floor, Star Trek the original series, The Lights of Zetar. This comes at around 48 minutes into the episode. We have Spock, Kirk and McCoy sitting around a table chatting when, clearly visible on the floor just behind them, there is someone's discarded newspaper. Now, far be it from us to ever say that, maybe somebody should have checked the shot before they started hitting record, but this newspaper was clearly left behind by somebody who was a little bit unhappy, maybe a little bit disgruntled, or maybe someone who was just looking for a little bit of glory. And seeing as more than 50 years later we're still talking about it, I'm going to say that yeah, they got their bit of glory. Now, it's a bit unclear to see what date is on that newspaper, but it probably isn't 2266, which is when the episode was set. Number 9. Camera equipment where no man has gone before. The second pilot of Star Trek the original series was famous for introducing and then getting rid of Gary Mitchell and Elizabeth Daner, but also giving us Kirk and Sulu and Scotty. We also obviously got Spock in the cage, and we wouldn't get McCoy for another episode yet. Now, while all this is going, it being a second pilot, it's understandable if potentially some things didn't go the way they meant to, such as being able to see equipment in the shot. When Mitchell and Kelso are sitting at the navigation section, there's a moment where the camera pans back and you can clearly see some rigging and tubes that go with the cameras that would have been filming the shot. Now, seeing as we are not used to seeing cameras on the bridge, at least not in these conventional ways, this was clearly an error that should have been chopped out of the episode, but seeing as Star Trek was riding on the high of being given a second shot at the pilot, you know what? I think we'll allow them this little gaff. Number 8. Data's chair needed a wedge of carpet. Encounter at Farpoint. At about 4 minutes into the pilot of Star Trek The Next Generation, Picard is talking to Data when he asks him questions about what they can expect in the future. Data, ever the diligent officer, stands up, turns and begins to speak to his captain. It's a lovely, bright, wide shot which gives us a great view of the ops and con stations, the view screen, and the wedge of carpet that's been shoved in underneath actor Brent Spiner's chair. It's quite a funny moment because, again, similar to the previous entry on this list, this was the pilot of The Next Generation, so things were still being finished and, still being put together, if you like. The fact that they hadn't managed to level off Brent Spiner's chair, but fixed it with a rather ingenious way of doing so, that in itself is quite funny. Probably shouldn't have been included in the shot itself, but hey, maybe this is one of those things where they cut some corners while filming the Galaxy-class Enterprise D. Number 7. Tear in the carpet when the bow breaks. At about 52 seconds into this first season episode of The Next Generation, we again find ourselves drawn toward the floor of the bridge. This time, rather than beside Data's station, it's beside LaForge's station. As Riker enters the bridge from the lower turbolift, the one that's beside the captain's ready room, the camera just nice and quickly pans through the room, giving us a look at the carpet. Well, obviously someone had caught something on the carpet that day, because there was a fairly large tear just behind actor LeVar Burton. It's only visible for a second, and it's perhaps forgivable that they thought this wouldn't be included in the shot, but it does suggest that somebody should have made another pass on that carpet and on that view. I mean, quite frankly, you just can't get the staff these days. Greetings fellow Trekkies, I am here to tell you about Squarespace, our amazing partner that we have been working with for a while now. Squarespace is an incredible platform that helps you build your website. If you want to do a blog, we can do that. If you want to do a portfolio, we can do that. If you want to send out a newsletter where we discuss the fact that Wolf 359 was clearly an inside job and the Dominion War never happened, the changelings don't exist, Squarespace can do that for you. We have built a merch store with them, which means you can soon get all of the sexy Trek culture content, which is presumably floating around my head right now. It's also got really impressive third-party skills, but it's also so good for e-commerce. It helps you keep track of inventory and push your products and also put those products out onto social media. So what can we do for you today? Well, we can get you a wee discount is what we can do. Now you can get a free trial of Squarespace over by their website, and if you go to www.squarespace.com/trekculture, you will get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Guys, cannot overstate how great this deal is. Check it out. Back to the video, you're all awesome. Number 6, Face in the Ornament, Unification Part 2. Now, this one is one of the slightly infamous shots from the Next Generation that they did actually manage to fix when it came to the remaster. In Unification Part 2, at about 41 minutes into the episode, Data, Spock and Picard escape from T'Sila's office. Now, in the original version of this episode, there is a very shiny, very reflective green ornament sitting on Sila's desk. That ornament manages to reflect the slightly casual looking face of a man chewing gum, happy out, part of the crew. Now, because this was so clear in the shot, this one is kind of easy to fix when it came to the remaster. Now, of course, when you see the shot in the episode that's been released on the Blu-ray, you can see that that ornament has no reflection whatsoever. It's one of the cool things that they've been able to do with the remaster of The Next Generation. Not that every episode had something like this in it, but with the advancements of technology, they were able to clean up some of those little things that must have annoyed them from the original run. Number 5, Black Cardboard Squares. This entry comes with a lot of thanks to our friends over at Ex Astris Scientia. In some of the early TNG episodes, we can see that parts of the large displays on the rear end of the Enterprise D bridge are covered with black cardboard. Now, you might be wondering what on earth people were doing going around sticking around blacked out bits of old cereal boxes on the reflective surfaces of the ship for. Well, the important word there is reflective. As the filming at the time was using slightly older style cameras, a lot of light was needed to light all of these sets, and that would often create reflections in the glass along with shadows on the floor. Oftentimes, you would see clearly the bulb from these lights in those black screens. So, these black pieces of cardboard were stuck over these display panels as a way of fixing that, with the hope that the viewer would never notice. However, along comes the remaster. TNG was obviously beautifully remastered when it was released on Blu-ray, which absolutely brought up every single frame to the highest possible standard. However, it also meant everything was much more visible, including these black squares. Now, without any context, these black squares look pretty silly, but in context, I mean, they still look pretty silly, but at least we understand why they're there. Number 4, Blocking Tape, the Sword of KAHLESS. To be honest, it's a bit shocking that there isn't many versions of this gaff throughout all of Star Trek, because it seems like it would be the easiest little slip up to have happen. When you're choreographing a scene and trying to organize where to put the camera and where to put the actors, it's most common that you'll put a marker down on the floor, whether that be, you know, an actual marker, like some sort of coloring pen, or masking tape, which would also be the most straightforward way of doing it. When John Kalikos' core is waking up, this is just after the opening credits of this episode, he is passed out on the floor. Jadzia Dax walks into the room and begins to lift and help him up to his feet. As the camera pans, the marking tape for the floor is very clearly visible, and it stands out because we haven't really seen this masking tape being used in DS9 so far. Although, to be honest, we wouldn't be massively shocked if Chief O'Brien always carried a roll of it somewhere around in one of those pockets of his. Number 3. Nika the dog, ex post facto. There are many things I love about my job, and there are many things which are strange about my job. But when I say that I spent a bit of today looking at screen grabs of a dog's private parts, I've got to say it's somewhere in the middle of where I've been with this role. In the first season of Star Trek Voyager, episode Ex Post Facto, Tom Paris is framed for a crime he didn't commit. The way that he is exposed is the fact that Nika the dog is not used to him in the apartment, but is used to one of the other characters. So, what's wrong with this scene? Well, Nika is referred to as a female dog for the entirety of the episode. When Nika the dog runs into the shot, Nika is very obviously a male dog. I mean, why make such a point of it if you just knew that some poor guy was going to have to go and take a screen grab of this in the future? Do you know what? It's fine. I'm over it. Number 2. Chewing gum on duty, drone. At about 34 minutes into this episode, the drone, which was created from a fusion of Seven's nanoprobes and the Doctor's mobile emitter, accidentally sends a proximity alarm to the Borg collective, which alerts them to their presence. Now, when Seven awakes to find Janeway and a whole troop of security officers standing fully armed in front of them, she is understandably alarmed. Everything is very tense and serious. She's informed by the captain to wake the drone and to ask why he's done this. It is, of course, an automatic thing that's happened, not his fault. Everyone remains tense. That is, of course, except for this one guard, who's clearly chewing gum in the middle of the scene. Probably not Starfleet issue, especially when Chief O'Brien and Dr. Bashir make such a point about how chewing gum was no longer a thing in the 24th century, so O'Brien was able to create his own for Take Me Out to the Holosuite infused with scotch. Number 1. Interesting choreography, what's passed as prologue. In one of the climactic episodes of Star Trek Discovery's first season, we see the mirror universe of Captain Lorca taking on the Empress Georgiou. Now they are giving it sucks. She throws a knife directly into his back, which looks quite painful if we're honest. But meanwhile, what's going on around them is that Michael Burnham is having a proper old punch-up with some of Lorca's guards, including Ellen Landry. Now, when the camera closes in on Lorca and Georgiou's final fight, which includes just fantastic swordplay, we see Burnham in the background going toe-to-toe with one of Lorca's guards. Then it closes in and Burnham swings a punch which connects, except that it doesn't. She's about a foot away from the other woman, who reacts as though she's just been slapped in the face. Clearly, this is because this was not meant to be captured in the shot. So, while we're enjoying Lorca and Georgiou go at it, we're kind of now distracted by the fact of doesn't take much to take down some of Lorca's guards. That's everything for our list today, guys. If you reckon we missed anything, please let us know by dropping it into the comments below. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and remember that you can catch us on Twitter over at Trek Culture. You can catch myself on Twitter and Instagram at Sean Ferrick as well. Now, whether you're making little mistakes that may or may not get caught on camera, make sure you have fun while doing it. Make sure you live long and prosper, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, guys.